Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to address you today at the event on alliances to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in food systems. I'm very pleased to be representing the UNESCO's Future of Learning and Innovation division as the research coordinator for the UNESCO Chairs Programme. And I'd like to congratulate the organisers of this very timely event, and especially the UNESCO Chair on Science and Innovation for Sustainable Development, Global Food Production and Safety. The connections you are making between food systems in all its societal dimensions, economics, public policy, education and culture, are very much in tune with the idea of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research. Managing food systems is crucial to meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, especially those related to health, the environment, and responsible consumption. Of course, as university researchers and other scholars, the question is whether today's higher education is up to the task, up to the challenge of the food systems problems. And we can see around us that the current food systems are not sustainable. Around 1/3 of the food we produce goes to waste. And yet large-scale commercial agriculture accounts for some 40% of tropical deforestation, exacerbating climate change and biodiversity loss. There are the parallel challenges of access to healthy food, of creating, on one hand, malnutrition and the problems of getting access to food, and on the other hand, obesity. And many people lack access to basic scientific knowledge on food, and factually untrue information is circulating around and about nutritional value and ecological practices. Which brings to mind the question of knowledge and the question of which knowledge for sustainable food systems. The issues we're talking about today touch on all areas of UNESCO's mandate: the natural and human sciences, culture, communication, and of course, education. It is increasingly recognized that transdisciplinary approaches are needed to address the complex challenges of today. Indeed, this is the message that has come out loud and clear through several recent UNESCO initiatives, including the report of the International Commission on the Futures of Education, Reimagining Our Futures Together, a New Social Contract. The International Commission based its vision upon three principles. Firstly, quality education throughout life as a human right. Secondly, that education is a collective public endeavor and a common good. And thirdly, that knowledge and education must reflect humanity's wide diversity of ways of knowing, living, and being to address the interconnected challenges facing humanity and the planet. The final point, connecting to a diversity of ways of knowing, is especially key when addressing the issues of sustainable food systems. We know that for tens of thousands of years, human societies have evolved in relation to their knowledge of the local environment and cultural practices of preparing and consuming food. Indeed, many of these practices are actually on the list of UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. There are natural world heritage sites and biosphere reserves as laboratories of sustainable practices. The diversity of these practices and the knowledge associated with them is vital. So research and innovation cannot afford to exclude the many ways in which human populations, cultures and traditions interact and understand the world. At the conference on transforming knowledge for just and sustainable futures, held to mark the 30th anniversary of the UNESCO Chairs Programme, Professor Achille Mbembe referred to Les Archives du Monde, the archives of the world. He said that the big questions of our time require new intelligence, new knowledge, new ways of learning and using disciplines. The concerns raised by the current techno-ecological situation of the planet raise questions of livability and habitability, he said, those relating to innovation for democracy, to the protection of the livelihoods of the weakest among us, and to our relationship to the earth and multiple living beings. His message was that a new planetary consciousness has to be capable to draw upon the world's archives of knowledge. And this message resonated with the call for a new research and innovation agenda, a global collaborative research agenda on the futures of education, called for by the International Commission, that is continually reappraising the nature of knowledge, data, and evidence. So what does this mean for reimagining higher education? Well, in May 2022, more than 2,000 participants gathered for the World Higher Education Conference held in Barcelona just last year. They discussed the need to reinvent higher education, drawing on the work of the International Commission as a basis for building a safe and more justable, democratic and sustainable world. The Higher Education Roadmap proposed at the World Higher Education Conference has an overarching vision of ensuring the right to education and its provision as a common good. Higher education institutions and systems should be guided by 6 core principles: inclusion, equity and pluralism, academic freedom and participation of all stakeholders, inquiry, critical thinking and creativity, integrity and ethics, commitment to sustainability and social responsibility, and achieving excellence through cooperation rather than the maybe market-driven paradigm of competition. So this very much builds on UNESCO's work and consultations in this area. And there are logical implications for teaching and research. So in teaching, universities must become more democratic and inclusive to meet the needs and aspirations of higher education students who are hoping for change. Knowledge must be built through collaborative and participatory processes, including the co-creation of knowledge between peers. In research, higher education institutions must open up to the world's knowledge. International cooperation is vital in this endeavor, between countries, but also between regions, north-south, south-south collaborations, to better understand the forces shaping our world and to improve a collective vision for tomorrow. And universities must, of course, guard what has been achieved, their right to academic freedom and their pursuit of knowledge, resisting undue political or commercial measures. Indeed, higher education institutions occupy a unique position in being able to make connections between knowledge systems of academia, civil society, communities, private sector, decision makers, bringing together these knowledge systems into a knowledge commons. In these efforts, there are already several UNESCO tools and mechanisms that can act as a guide. I highlight just a few here. For example, the recommendation on open science, adopted in 2017. In the very fragmented scientific and policy environment, it aims at promoting science, technology, and innovation to make the scientific process more transparent, inclusive, and democratic. There's also the Education for Sustainable Development for 2030 toolbox with examples on harnessing partnerships for sustainable development, and the guidance provided by UNESCO's Local and Indigenous Knowledge Systems Programme. Of course, one of the most significant resources and mechanisms is the UNESCO Chairs Network and your co-UNESCO chairs, covering around 1,000 chairs and networks in 120 countries. The 30th anniversary conference, which I just mentioned, has given fresh impetus to this programme, and it will continue to reach across national and disciplinary and professional boundaries to transform knowledge for just and sustainable futures. So as you continue to find ways to build alliances for sustainable food systems, I hope you will be able to make use of the astounding expertise, perspectives and knowledge of the UNESCO chairs, from hydrology to bioethics, intangible cultural heritage, to education for sustainable development, the green economy, artificial intelligence, and the ethical debates of technological transformations. So have a very good event today. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, and I hope that your deliberations will contribute to building just and sustainable futures.